One of the hardest questions to answer is, who am I? Or who are you? My name is James, and this is Convo, encouraging conversations that matter. I want to invite you to, we want to welcome you to our show today, and we are looking forward to having a very meaningful conversation with you. We are looking forward to your questions. We also look forward for you to consider subscribing to our YouTube channel and, liking our videos and telling your friends that we have a new show up. So today we're going to talk about something that it's a very, very important conversation that has continued to affect so many people, and that is personal identity. When a person asks you, who are you? How do you respond to that question? Because how you respond to that question most often will determine or will tell how you think about your identity. So I'm not alone today. It's very, it's amazing. We started having these conversations with Fridah, and she is with me today. We're gonna advance this conversation with her, and I want to just ask her to say hi to you, so that we can now kick and have this conversation. So Fridah, how are you?
I'm good, James. How
Yes,
are you?
very well. How are you?
It's so good to be here with you today.
Yes.
It's been a while.
Yes, it's been a while since we've done a show together.
Yeah.
Wow. I remember we were doing this from the beginning, going Facebook Live, and wow. So it's amazing to always have you.
Yeah.
Last week you guys had a very good conversation.
Yeah, with Lydia.
Yes.
About judgment.
Judgment.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I enjoy the conversation and the feedback, especially
Yes,
that
the
we
feedback.
got.
Yes. So many people like that video, and we're looking forward to even having more of such kind of conversations.
Yeah.
Yes. So today, what are we hoping to discuss today?
Today we are talking about identity.
Identity, yes.
Which is very, very important, because I think these are some of the things we should be taught even at a young age.
Yes, sure.
Like you should be able to teach Nera by now who she is. Yeah, because I feel like most of us didn't really give much thought to who we really are as we grew up, and as life continued, we allowed the society and people around us, our relationships, our jobs, the activities we do, we allowed all those things to define us. So our identity is not something that we determined, but something that has been determined by others or situations around us.
Wow.
Which is unfortunate.
This is so unfortunate. And
Yeah.
I think it continued to affect so many people. I know when we talk about teenage, there's something we call kind of a crisis.
Identity crisis.
Exactly, yeah. Where the young people are trying to identify themselves.
Yeah.
And it's a huge thing, because that's when you see now young people behaving in some funny ways. You don't seem to understand.
Yeah.
They try to, they're basically trying to identify who they are and have a story that they can define themselves with.
Yeah.
And I think it makes it a very, very important conversation.
Yeah.
And so this is one of the conversations we say it's a conversation that actually matter. And so for us, it's just to encourage those kind of conversations that we believe do matter. So Fridah, let me just, most of the time when you ask people, and I know it's just like we are saying, it's very hard to define you.
Yeah.
If I ask you, Fridah, for example, who are you?
Someone asked me that question yesterday, actually, and I paused for a while because I didn't know if it was a trick question. I was just having a conversation, and someone said, who are you? And I said, I'm a child of God. And they asked me, what makes you so sure that you're a child of God? And I went blank for a second there, because I didn't know where this conversation was headed. So I know it's, as you're saying, it's very, very hard to answer the question, who are you? And sometimes we usually answer that question based on who is asking, which tells you that our identity fluctuates sometimes.
Yes, depends.
Yeah, it depends. And I think it's important that we're having this conversation.
Yes. And I'm very certain if you ask the same question to quite a number of, you just take a sample.
Yeah.
You get so many different responses. Someone will tell you, I'm a young female.
Yeah.
or I'm a young man.
Yeah.
Some will tell you I'm a medical student. For
Yeah.
example, you tell me I'm a medical student.
Yeah.
You know, and these, and even if you ask me, for example, I'll tell you my position in the office or the job that I do.
Yeah.
And so my identity is based on the work I do.
Yeah. We should not be the case.
Which should not be the case, because
Yeah.
we've seen quite a number of people, you lose a job
Yeah.
that you are working,
Yeah.
and then you no longer define yourself as a manager or a procurement manager or so and so. So
Yeah.
you have to look for another identity. And, or even, like, for example, you could be a medical doctor, and then you get a different position
Yeah.
in a different field.
Yeah.
So you're not doing the normal day-to-day work of a
Yes.
medical doctor.
Yes.
So you're doing something else.
Yes.
So you have to look for a new definition. You say,
Yeah.
now I'm no longer a doctor.
Yeah.
But I don't know if identity should be something internal or something that should keep fluctuating.
For me, I think identity should not be something that fluctuates. Because
Yes.
if it fluctuates, then that means we don't really know who we are. You know,
We are
at one
not
point,
grounded, yes.
at one point, Jesus asked the disciples,
Yes.
"Who do people say I am?" And then people said, "Some think you're one of the prophets. Some think
yeah.
you're John the
Yeah.
Baptist.
Yeah.
Other things
Yeah.
is you're Elijah." Things like that. And then he asked, "But who do you say I am?" And Peter was like, "You are Christ, the
Yes.
Son of the living God."
Yes, yes.
And at that point, Jesus grasped that Peter had gotten that from God.
Yes,
That
yes.
was a revelation, and
Yes,
that was
actually told
the
me
true
that, yes.
identity of
Yes,
Christ.
yes.
So whatever happened, whoever Christ was different things to different people. At one point, he was a healer to some.
Yes.
To others, he was a thorn in the flesh. Like to
Oh,
the
yeah.
Pharisees, he was a really annoying guy.
Yes.
To some other people, he was a provider, you know. To some other people, he was a friend. He was a teacher to the
Yes.
disciples.
Yes.
He was, you know, he was many different things to different people.
Yes.
But his identity was, he was the Son of the living God. So I think our identity shouldn't have to keep fluctuating, you
Yes,
know,
yes.
because for Christ, all these other things that he did, the healing, the helping the poor, setting the captives free, and all those other things came from his identity. He did all these things because he was the Son of God. You
Wow.
get? Yeah,
Yes.
that's what I think.
And that is deep.
Yeah.
And I think, for example, Fred, let me ask you, because we've been doing convos. It's actually 1 year.
Yeah, it's 1 year.
1 year
Yeah.
now, and wow.
Yeah.
To us, yes. So we're actually celebrating 1
1
year.
year.
Of,
Daring greatly.
jumping
Yeah.
into the arena and
Yeah.
coming up with Convo, and you can expect more that will be coming. Yeah.
Yeah.
And at that point, kindly consider subscribing to our YouTube channel so that you can always be notified anytime we have a new conversation. Now, Fridah, when
Yes.
we're doing Convo,
Yeah.
do we do it in a way to try to identify ourselves, or we do it because it's who we are?
You know what I think, James? I think Convo, we do Convo because we know who we are.
Yes.
Convo does not define who we are.
Yes.
You know, like if we didn't have the opportunity to do Convo,
Yes.
it wouldn't make us, think any less of ourselves. So we do Convo from a point of understanding who we really are,
Yes.
and what kind of an impact we can have on the society.
Yes.
So we are coming from a place of knowing who we are. So Convo doesn't define who we are.
Yes.
We are the ones who actually bring meaning into Convo,
Yes.
because we are bringing our personalities, our, the things that the knowledge we've accumulated with
yeah.
time,
Yeah.
and the wisdom that we've received from, God and from our interactions with other people. We are bringing it into Convo, to bring meaning into the show.
Yes.
Yeah, so Convo does not define.
It's a projection of who we are.
Exactly. I think I wouldn't say it better than you've said it. It's a projection of who we are. Yeah.
Amazing. So let's just. One classic example I love so much is of Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
And withstanding all the humiliations, all the pain,
Yeah.
until death. But let me ask you, Fridah, why is it very important to be able to identify yourself, or have a personal identity, or be able to define? Why is it key, and why does it matter?
I think especially in in our society and cultures, if we don't know who we are, we're going to allow the society and the people around us to define us. We're going to allow the struggles we go through define us. So like now you feel like sometimes the way you see headlines on news, or even on like when you're searching on YouTube and you see titles, and someone will say the girl with a broken back, like that's how they define themselves, and it's an accident that happened, and so they have taken up that identity as who they are, or the man who performed I don't know how many surgeries, So the things, if we allow the things we do to define us, I was just thinking, what if you couldn't do, what if you woke up one day and you couldn't do the things you've been doing?
Yes.
Would you lose your value? Would you consider yourself worthless? Do you place your worth in the things you do, or do you place your worth in the people around you? Sometimes we do place our worth in our relationships, our human relationships, and this is very dangerous because sometimes we talked about friendships and we said some friendships are usually for a season.
Some are for a reason.
Yeah, some are for a reason. So if we place our value and our worth in a person, or in an activity, or in a job, then it means when we can no longer have that person around us or in our lives, or when we can no longer do the activity or be at the job, then we lose our value and we lose our identity. So it's very, very important to define who we are, separate from the things we do and the people that are in our lives. I think it's very, very important.
And that gives you the confidence even to persevere.
Yeah.
To withstand.
Yeah.
To dare even in the wilderness.
Yeah.
Where no one is clapping at you.
Yeah.
When you're not being cheered.
Yeah.
Talking
about perseverance.
Yes.
We just mentioned Jesus asking the disciples who they think he is, and if Jesus didn't really know that he was the Son of the living God and he was sent on the earth with a purpose, there is this point where the Roman soldiers are, beating him up, and they even gave him a crown of thorns, and they're like, if you're the king or if you're the Son of God, why don't you, I don't know, they kept daring him to do something to prove.
Exactly, to prove who he is.
Yeah, and so if Jesus didn't understand who he was, then he would have, just sent fire from heaven and come and finish up these guys, or given them a sign. But sometimes Jesus would be like, there is no sign I'm going to give you, especially that last bit when he was being taken to the cross. He persevered, knowing very well, even when the other thief was like mocking him, he didn't even bother to defend himself, because he knew who he was and why he was here. So if we know who we are, then there are some battles we stop fighting. There are some things we persevere because of who we are. We understand our assignment. Like, I understand why we are having this conversation. And you and I remember, now that we are celebrating 1 year, when we just began, we had a lot of critics. And a lot of people didn't understand what we were doing.
Exactly.
And if we had placed our value and worth in Convo, then we would have stopped at that point, because some of the criticism we got was some felt like we are being attacked, but then we had made a decision that we are going into the arena, and we had to keep fighting.
It's not comfortable there.
It's not comfortable. So I think it's because we understood who we are and why we are doing Convo. And I know you're the one who keeps telling me, remember why you started.
Exactly.
Even when I'm doing my blog, you keep saying, why are you writing?
Yes. Because you have to define that.
Yeah, you have to define it. Yeah.
Wow. So I like the fact that self-identity, identifying yourself, understanding your identity, helps you understand your worth.
Exactly.
And your worth is not in a person.
Yeah, it's not.
Your worth is not in that particular job that you're doing.
It's not.
It's not even in that family that you're hailing from.
Yeah.
So your worth is somewhere else, deep down within you, in your core.
Yeah.
So Fridah, because we want to wind up this conversation, I think time is really gone. So then, how do we find our identity?
I think for one, and I think I was just listening to Joyce Meyer another day, and she was saying just what you say, that your worth is not in someone else or
Yes.
in something you do. And she was saying it doesn't matter how many degrees you have. The degrees you have and or the accomplishments, achievements, certificates, and the medals you've won don't make you more valuable than the next person.
Sure.
So, and this is what Paul meant when he was saying, do not think of yourself more highly than you ought to,
Yes,
you know?
yes.
Yeah, because sometimes you achieve so much and there's a professor around us and you are tempted to think that you know you have more value, or because you're very resourceful. You know, there are people who are very, very resourceful, and I know you've met and interacted with people who are very resourceful. Even in the church setting,
Yes.
there are people who are very, very resourceful. And sometimes we as human beings, and that's why I like the conversation we had about perception,
Yes.
that God does not perceive the same way that we do.
perceive,
Yeah, sometimes we as human beings are tempted to think that person is more valuable than this one, or they have more worth than this other one,
Yes.
you know? And that's not how God looks at things, you know? This is why we need to derive our worth and identity from God. Because He's the only one who says, you know, before I formed you, I knew you. He skillfully formed you in your mother's womb, you know? So your identity can only come from Christ. For you to be,
Creator.
yeah. And
Wow.
Joyce Meyer said something very, very interesting. She said, every human being wants to feel safe
Yes.
and secure.
Yes.
And even the ones, you know, we have had conversations around mental health.
Yeah, sure.
And sometimes people who have gone through abuse and trauma, they never feel safe in any relationship, and that's why they have issues, a lot of issues with relationships and that such, because they have grown up facing a lot of trauma and abuse, you know. So Joyce Meyer was saying everyone wants to feel safe and secure, but sometimes we usually look for this safety in human relationships. And she said, if you cannot derive your safety and security from the Lord, no human relationship is ever going to give you that. So today I would just say, if you cannot derive your identity from God, the person who created you, the person who, you know, knew you and formed you in your mother's womb and, you know, brought you to the world with a purpose, then you will never get your identity anywhere else.
Wow. And you're not saying that you stop, you know, achieve as many degrees as you can.
Yeah.
You know, they'll earn value. You know, they will help you accomplish more. They will help you project who you are better.
Yeah.
And so go on and do a lot of studies. And
exactly.
But I think you've said something very important, that it's God who gave us life.
Yeah.
It's God who actually predestined us. He knew us.
Yeah.
And so that is the only place we can
And our identity.
our identity.
Yeah.
So basically, we are not, and I'll repeat this because it's very important, and because we get lost into the multitude, the people who are trying to define themselves by their job, and actually even the peer pressure of your friends, because you guys are holding possessions in your workplace or whatever you're doing, you tend to believe that now that is your identity.
Yeah.
And you live that. Then all of a sudden, after some time, then you realize you've been living a lie.
Yeah, it's a complete lie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow. I wish you can discover this.
Yeah, you know, James, when we talk about identity, if you understand your identity, you're able to take charge of your life. You know, you think about most of the people who, you know, are full of excuses and can't achieve anything in life. If you like sit down with someone and try to understand what is it that you need, they'll tell you, you know, where I came from, people don't do this.
Yes.
You know, my dad didn't do this for me. You know, my friends don't like me. You know, like it revolves around there's someone else to blame. So when you don't understand identity, we are always passing the blame to others. Like, it doesn't matter what you're doing right now. You could be a house manager, you could be, I don't know, a HR somewhere, or a professor or a teacher, or you could be Miss Universe or whatever. But if you don't understand your identity, you'll always be passing on blame to others for your own life. So a person who understands their identity is able to take charge of their lives, you know? Like, you know, I think he's called Nick, the guy who does motivational speaking without arms and legs.
Yes.
that's a person who understands the identity. Like the legs and the hands
Don't define him.
Absolutely, you know, he doesn't have them, and he's doing a lot more than some of us who have, who can even run, you know, races and win medals, you know.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So as you said, understanding your identity will help you achieve more, because the things we are doing are a projection of who we are. Understanding your identity will even help you love people more, yeah,
and appreciate people,
because you don't look at people and value them based on what they do,
yes, what you can see with your
or what you can
eyes,
see,
yes.
or how they dress, or you know, there's an understanding in you that identity is something rooted deep inside.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's huge. That's huge. I think we can advance this conversation, but Fridah, let's just wind up.
Yeah,
at
we
this
should.
point.
Yeah.
But it's my hope that you've picked something that you need to be able to, for you to achieve more in your life, for you to be more resilient, for you to, and I think even Fridah, I think we need to, and maybe it's a study, some of the cases that we are dealing with of depression,
Yeah.
it's of people who have not been able to appreciate who they are, they've
Yeah.
not identified their identity, and so they've been living other people's, like what you're saying, living a lie.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you realize, man, this is not what I, then it depresses you, it stresses you.
Yeah.
But I wish at first you had identified who you are, then you live. I'm not saying this is all cases of
It's
depression,
not all
but you
cases,
can
of
point
course.
out that this was a case of
Yeah.
someone who didn't understand and then started living a different life. Then things are not working, and then he is depressed.
Yeah, and
Yes.
you know, at that point, you know, you realize that a lot of people allow situations to make them believe that they are not loved, that they are not appreciated, that they are not worthy of love, and
Yes.
things like that. So it's very, very important for you to understand that the things you've gone through in life don't define you. The things that, you know, have happened to you over time, none of those things define you, you know. If you don't understand that bit, you know, fall into depression, because some of these things are very, very, I know some people are very unfortunate, you know. Some people have gone through so many things in life, and they have let those things define them. Yeah, so as you're saying, sometimes depression is as a result of, you know, allowing people, situations, and activities and jobs, and you know, when we did our first episode about demystifying fear and jumping into the arena, we talked about Brené Brown and her work, and I think she inspired us to jump into the arena, because she was saying, if you could draw a painting, or, you know, write an article, or write a book, like your book 90 Days of Courage, and, or, you know, come up with an idea and put it out there into the world, and it's not celebrated, would that make you feel worthless? Would that make you like lose your identity, or would that make you like just pull back? And she said, if that happens to you, then you have not, what you've done is you've put your value in what you're doing. So she was saying, you need to separate the two. You need to be able to show the world your work, but you need to also not put your worth on the table. Yeah, your value is not on the table. It's okay if you guys celebrate my work, well and good. If you guys criticize my work, well and good. I am still valuable. I still matter. I'm still important, you know? Yeah, so Brené's work is very, very inspiring.
Wow.
Yeah.
Was that your parting shot?
Yeah, I think so. This conversation can go on and on.
There's a statement that said, just to add weight to what you're saying, they say that if not been born into a rich family, then a rich family need to come out of you.
Wow, that's huge.
That is now differentiating yourself
Yeah.
from the circumstances that you're born in, and being able to identify who you are and live a different kind of life and pursue different goals and purposes. Wow, amazing. So we want to stop at that point. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for the love. Kindly consider, subscribing again to our YouTube channel. We appreciate so much feedback from you, and till next week from us, it's a bye-bye.
Bye.
Yes, bye.